it's very likely that if you bought a car in the last 2 to 3 years, you've realized that your monthly payment has probably been going up from what you're used to from back in the day. And if that's the case, you may want to be paying attention to this video as close as you pay attention to your favorite influencer's ass on Instagram. So if you've been paying attention to them, you should be paying attention to me, because I'm about to teach you a little thing or two about the biggest mistake people make when buying their next car. All right, guys, welcome back to Exotic Car Hacks, and today we're talking about the biggest mistake people make when buying a car. And you may have guessed it, it's not because the car doesn't attract the girl you want, but rather because the car you're buying is probably being bought with the wrong financial tool. You see, it's very likely that over the last 10 years, if you've bought a car, you've been convinced by manufacturers and by dealerships that your monthly payment is technically the most important factor of affordability. As a matter of fact, car salesmen have been trained across the country to ask you questions probing your affordability by asking you how much of a payment would you like to be at? How much down payment money do you have? Trying to gauge your ability to afford the cars you're actually looking at. Because the majority of people who buy cars are financing them, which is very okay, but certainly don't have a real understanding that cost of monthly payment is yet very, very far from the actual cost of ownership on a car. You see, most people think that the ownership of a car comes down to their cost of payments, along with their cost of insurance, and then along with the cost of repairs. They add these three things up if they don't have a warranty, and basically are able to decide what their car costs them per month. They often don't take in factor what the value of that car is at the time of exit, because they're not thinking about the exit, similar to their divorce they didn't think about, so they didn't get a prenup. The whole idea of financial independence and financial intelligence comes from the ability to understanding money past the marketable aspect of it. And the marketable aspect of it is that dealerships have convinced you that your financial capacity is based on your monthly earning and not so much on your actual cost of ownership. Because dealers would not want you to actually understand your cost of ownership, otherwise things like negative equity wouldn't exist. And negative equity is a very, very important factor for dealers being able to put you into other loans and other cars, keeping you in the same range of dealerships to buy cars from, giving you more money for your trade, knowing that you can't afford to pay a lump sum to get out of it, puts you in a position to basically be forced to buy more stuff from the dealership, and then making your negative equity lighter or smaller or transferring it, putting you in never-ending debt and preventing you from owning the car of your dreams because you simply can't afford the monthly payments. So in this particular chapter, I want you to understand how to look at money a little bit differently. Think if you bought a Toyota for $42,000 and after 2 years sold it for $25,000. Well, in that particular case, you would have lost over $15,000 or roughly $17,000 owning a Toyota, and it would make you not so much financially responsible for having only a $500 a month payment, but an absolute moron for not understanding that you just lost 17 grand. On the other hand, if you bought a Porsche 911, let's say used for $65,000, and at the end sold it for $63,000, you would have had basically a Porsche 911 for just 2 grand of ownership cost over a duration of the time you've owned it, rather than losing $17,000 in Toyota. So what seems on the surface to be more affordable because it has a lower entry point or cost of cash ultimately ends up costing you significantly more money. And this leads me to the next phase as to why the majority of people on the internet are poor as it pertains to financial education. They look at money in the sense of what the money is worth to them today, not so much the delayed gratification of being able to sustain their wealth by preserving it, rather than just worrying about their expenditure. You see, most people are consumers, and consumers worry or look at everything from the lens of I make, I spend, and hopefully I spend less than I make, and that puts me in a good saving position. But that strategy hasn't worked, has it now? If we look at every single American or every single European person that has saved more money than they've spent, they're still not rich. And so this is missing the one equation that rich people seem to understand, which is leverage. You see, with leverage, we understand that just because we spend more money up front doesn't mean we actually are making a bad financial decision. We could actually be making a better one. An example of that would be if you buy a painting off your wall, like off of an art gallery that's $5,000 to decorate your house, it may or may not be a pretty painting or the one you want or whatever else it is, but it's $5,000 down the toilet. Now, buying an investment grade painting for $20,000 might seem like a $15,000 waste since you're spending 15K more, but what if that painting could be resold for 30 to 50 grand, putting you in a cash positive position of $15,000 to $20,000? It would then become an incredible investment. You see, all assets in the world, from cars to watches to art to even handbags, can be bought as an asset class instead of a consumer class. And while not all watches and all cars are created equal, certain cars, especially the ones you dream of, can actually be bought the right way, preventing you from actually losing money. And so the mistake people make when they go into dealership is, again, looking at their affordability through the monthly payment they can afford to lose rather than the monthly payment they can afford to allocate. So let me give you the difference between the two so you can actually understand it. If you think about the payment you can afford to lose is how much money you can afford to spend and not worry about it disappearing. You may make $3,000 a month and think that $500 a month is a reasonable amount to make disappear. But someone who's financially intelligent would look at that and say, I'd rather pay $1,000 a month knowing that $900 of that money is safe, rather than spending $500 a month knowing that $500 of that money is lost. And you see, that's the difference in nature, that the money sits in your savings account or that it sits in the car equity you hold makes no difference. But one ends up making sure it's preserved while the other one makes you spend it. So the difference is, the feeling of security is actually costing you long-term security. And that's the big issue when dealing with car payments. And so one of the things I hope you guys understand this year in 2026 is that Exotic Car Hacks was never really created as a means of just helping you buy a car. It was really created to help you understand finance through cars. And so this channel has been devoted to helping you lower your cost of ownership by understanding these modern financial day principles that many people seem to miss. Now, the average idiot thinking that buying a car on Marketplace is simply enough to save money by buying used isn't considering the idea of the cost of insurance and, more than anything else, the cost of repairs by buying the wrong car. And so it's very important, regardless that you buy used or you buy new or that you buy slightly used and so on and so forth, that you understand that buying the right cars means having the right experiences, and buying the right cars at the right price means preserving the wealth, unlike anything that you would do when it pertains or comes to this idea of making a car payment that is long gone and negative equity has been added to your balance at the end of this transaction, thinking you were saving money by making a very careful and good financial decision of not spending more. So one of the things I wish in 2026 is that more people would stop actually looking at finance from the lens of how much car they can afford through their payment, but rather look at how much they can allocate to a car and ultimately get it back after. Hopefully you found this useful. Make sure you save this video and show it to your next friend who's gonna make a terrible mistake of buying a Toyota for $500 a month, where it could be driving a beautiful BMW and actually saving every single penny of that payment and reallocating it to himself at the time of sale. So make sure you save that video and share it, like, subscribe, turn on notifications, and let me know in the comment, when was the biggest car payment mistake you've ever made? I'd love to hear more, and I'll catch you next time for Exotic Car Hacks.